stars above.
Jesse!
James,
Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light!
surrender now or prepare to fight.
Yeah, that's right. Gotcha, bitch.
I'm not playing these games.
Hey Bob, check your bank account, Bob. Check your transactions, Bob. Check your cash out.
You just threw me the 5. All right, bet. Good luck.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Don't go to that store though. Up the street. Don't go to that store though. Go to the other one. Go to the other one. It's hot.
It's also this hot.
I don't know who did it, but you know what I'm saying, niggas was wildin', son. Niggas was wildin'.
You talking about some? Don't go to the store up the street. It's hot.
We've got a long way to go and a minute to do it. Let's go. Optics here. Sniper. Come with me. Over here. 45 seconds until the ring closes. We've got a hike, and I'm in charge.
I don't give a fuck, Aisha.
Dropped another one. Reloading.
Bro, I'm really about to beat your pickle chin now, boy.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
KO. Round 4. Fight.
That's what it's all about. Guns and butter, baby. Little dumb motherfuckers.
My vital organs. My vital organs.
Damn, nigga, what you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon. Hella ass. The sun is still out.
お前はもう死んでいる。
Damn, nigga, what you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon. Hella ass. The sun is still out.
What's going on, y'all? What's up? Good morning.
Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon. Hella ass. The sun is still out.
Happy hoes ain't hating, and hating hoes ain't happy.
My head is starting to hurt me again. I don't like that.
Are you thinking? You know what happens when you think.
Where's my kick you from the party button? There it is.
Prepare for trouble.
Make it double.
To protect the world from devastation.
And to unite all peoples within our nation.
To denounce the evils of truth and love.
To extend our reach to the stars above.
Jesse!
James.
Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light.
Surrender now or prepare to fight.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha, bitch.
I'm watching It 2018, so I'm not here, but I'm always here. Okay, okay. How you liking it so far? I'm sure it's not good morning. This flu beating my ass. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. I know. Thank you for the shout out. Appreciate it, appreciate it.
Hey Bob,
Yeah.
check your bank account, Bob. Check your transactions, Bob. Check your cash out.
You just threw me the 5. All right, bet. Good luck.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Appreciate
Don't go to that store though. Up the street. Don't go to that store.
Yeah, how you liking it so far?
Go to the other one. It's hot. It's hot.
I'm gonna start the
I don't know who
stream in
did
a
it.
second,
I don't know who did it, but I don't know
Still
who
kind
did
of
it.
getting my
Niggas be wild.
my head
You
together.
talking about some? Don't go to the store up the street. It's hot. I'm weak.
We've got a long way to go and a minute to do it. Let's go. Optics here. Sniper. Come with me. Over here. 45 seconds until the ring closes. We've got a hike, and I'm in charge.
I don't give a fuck, Nisha.
Dropped another one. Reloading.
Bro, I'm really about to beat your pickle chin now, boy.
Yeah, Sam, you knew what this was.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
KO. Round 4. Fight.
All the shout outs, all the love accepted. Yeah, coming for everybody. Yeah, I seen they said something about the flu.
Little dumb motherfucker.
Oh damn. It's definitely that time of the year. And then up here it's doing a whole bunch of the weather's doing a whole bunch of back and forths. Like today, 50 something. Alright. Now, behold. Hey Siri, what's the weather tomorrow? $58 fucking degrees at the end of the year. Thank you. Bye. She was still listening. She was still listening. She didn't say what she had to say and dip on. She said what she had to say and stayed to wait until I had something else. Scary. But no, yeah, no. It's gonna be warmer tomorrow than it was today. It's damn near the springtime. Alright. In dead of winter, it is the springtime. How do you deal with that? You do nothing but get sick.
Happy hoes ain't hating, and hating hoes.
I do like that last little Apex clip. It made me feel good. It made me feel good. I think that was like the first time, or at least one of the first times I was like, I approved myself to be a little competent, a little solid.
There it is.
That's just the way I see it. I think that was it might have been not too long after Loba came out, because Olympus was like the first. No, World's Edge was the second map. Never mind. Olympus was the third map, and I think that's when they dropped it. But I might be wrong. I might be wrong. That clip made me feel good though. It definitely made me feel good. How y'all be though? Good morning. Good morning.
Gotcha, bitch.
Hope everybody's day has been alright. Hope everybody week and weekend went well. I think it was like the last 2 days. No. I was live Friday. It was yesterday that I wasn't. So I hope everybody's yesterday was cool. You know what I'm saying? We're definitely rounding off the end of the year. It's the tomorrow's the 30th. Okay, tomorrow's the 30th.
Hey, Bob,
last 2 days of the year.
Check your transactions, Bob.
Oh,
Check your cash.
Last little 50 hours.
Good look.
50 hours plus.
Appreciate that.
But not
Don't
too
go
much
to
plus.
don't
Not
go
too
to
much
that
more
store
than that.
up the street. Don't go to that store. Go to the other one. Go to the other one. It's hot.
We're invited on the 31st. I had my outfit.
I don't know who did it. I don't know who did it. but
Nice white
I don't know who
jeans
did
and
it.
everything. End of the year.
Wow. Wow.
End of the year, mother and she was like, "Oh, you want to wear white? Not your normal black." Aha. Oh, damn. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. You gotta end the year. You gotta end and start the year with that. That's diabolical. That's something worth squabbling over. Have you tried complaining to management? Yeah, have you tried filing a formal complaint to management? As per your last email, the bitch is back, or something like that. I feel like that's not too far off from how it will be articulated.
Bro, I'm really about to beat your
I'm gonna start it in a second, y'all. My bad. I'm yapping.
KO. Round 4. Fight.
That's what it's all about. Guns and butter, baby.
Mess.
Little dumb
I don't even.
motherfucker.
Oh, there's a whole video. I like your voice. I don't mind the yapping. I appreciate that. And it came in with triple the pain. Like I had nothing since October, and it came back with a vengeance. And a vengeance for the vengeance. Damn. Just pulled up and squabbled. All right.
Happy hoes ain't hating.
All right.
And hating hoes ain't happy.
My head is starting to hurt me again.
What is going on, everybody? How y'all be? Welcome. I say take your shoes off, but if your feet stink, we're gonna have a problem. Get comfortable though. How y'all be? We got a few hours. I'm gonna probably end up wrapping up around 9:30. It just turned into one of them days, so I'm not really in like the best, but it's fine. I was going to. I know I pulled this article up Friday at the last stream, but I looked over it and it was really just going back and talking about everything that had happened over the year, over this year alone, as far as the games industry. Like, if I had to summarize it, a large part of it definitely dealt with the amount of people that ended up having to like lose their jobs this year. That was around 15K. And then also like the state of games that's coming out, everybody chasing trends and then shutting down not too long after that. So it's not like it's a bad one. This is actually one that I will put into the Discord. I throw it in G4. Yeah, layoffs, closures, you know what I'm saying? And they were talking about not just Concord, but Suicide Kill the Justice League as just examples. You know what I'm saying? Of just people going after the live service model does not work for everything. Summarize 2024 shit show. Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. Like those were like the two biggest ones, and then they did round it off with just the, like they said, like they put it, the hardware hiccups, like the issues with like just the consoles that was coming out. And of course, since everything is made in parity for PS4, a lot of the things that came out on PS5 weren't to like the best. Like, after using those 50 luxury balls, I have Sol Galeo. Damn, I didn't know we could catch all of them, because that's the one from Sun and Moon. So I'll probably end up catching the other one. Yeah, everything from like how much the PS5 Pro was. I won't necessarily say that they touched on the backwards parity, but I could, if I went off of that prior knowledge, then yeah, I could see that also being involved in it. That's the one part that I kind of skimmed over, just because I want to say that was like a more recent thing that came out, I guess. But yeah, I'll leave it in the G4. I'll leave it in G4 in the Discord, so you know what I'm saying, everybody could get a chance to look at it. Yeah, it was talking about people losing their jobs in studios that also had to shut down at the same time. Arcane made Redfall, but they also made Prey, which lets you know that these, like, not just like people are getting shut down because like bad games. Like, these are companies with like solid bodies of work. You know what I'm saying? And then their whatever goes on behind the scenes ends up causing them to make the decisions that they do, and then put out what they have been putting out, which has not been good for anybody involved, and that's led to companies getting shut down. You know what I'm saying? Because they try to incorporate some sort of like live service or some sort of anything to keep up with like trends that are really like flash in the pan and only really work in like certain circumstances. You can get snacks for legendaries from the previous games. Oh, is that what I need? I need snacks for legendaries. That's interesting. Interesting. That's interesting. I actually tried to use I threw Rayquaza and my first in my party. Threw him out. The motherfucker. Listen. All right. Hear me out, okay? The sheer magnitude, okay, the girth in which that was displayed by the BBC Dragon as I threw him out on Pokemon. This nigga could not even be seen on screen. You know, the sumbitch was quite literally incomprehensible. The old Concord. Yeah. Initially around like last year when they had announced it, it had kind of like caught my interest, but I didn't know that it was gonna be a hero shooter, and like it definitely was like one of them things. Like it started out looking it kind of started out looking differently enough with like the characters and everything that it piqued my interest. However, yeah, no, I was never going to be like on board with like the whole like hero shooter. I mean, in the sense that like I already play Overwatch, and on top of that, it was a PS5 exclusive. It was a PlayStation exclusive, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't. But in knowing what it was gonna be, there was never really any desire. The whole BBC Dragon kills me. Sam, I don't know if you know this, but as I've been scouring the lands of Elden Ring, okay, one thing is for sure. The BBC Dragon kills everyone. I'm just saying. The BBC Dragon comes for us all. Who knows? If you have a great rune, I might have to come collect that. Slay the BBC Dragon? Impossible. Only the ones truly worthy can obtain the title of BBC Dragon. Don't look at you in that tone of voice. What do you mean by that? I'm just saying. Dr. Erie Chiropractor PhD, insane. I'm just saying. I was playing Pokemon, and I had to become, who I always am. The BBC Dragon, so I threw him out there. The motherfucker was so massive, the game said no. Like, I'd see him for a second and then he'd move. Okay. And me thinking I'm doing cool shit. I'm trying, see my mans, let him see the world. Let the world see him. Nah. He slide to the background, he invisible, he shy. And in that moment, elaborating on it, I relate to that. Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Oh, Lord. What did I say? Let me see. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Nintendo Switch alarm clock for $100. They tried that shit. They tried that shit. I can't believe it. They tried that. The stream is too vulgar for my innocent ears. Ma'am, this is a platform of honesty. Okay. 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 Alright, so I guess since that was kind of like covering the negatives of like the gaming industry and everything, this is kind of like gonna be the counterbalance, talking about the positives, at least what to expect from PlayStation this year. A lot of the things were probably gonna be stuff that was mentioned. I said that was stuff that was mentioned during the whatchamacallit, the Game Awards, or even if it wasn't then that didn't they have a they had a state of play in like the fall, I think. Was it October? I don't remember. I don't remember. Yeah, so these two I'm gonna end up putting into the Discord. I do have Helldivers. Listen. To this day, even if I'm not playing it all the time, and I'm not playing it regularly or nothing like that, I have no intention of uninstalling it. I have no intention of uninstalling it. It hits. But yeah, these are basically just like a couple of the ones. Pop Discord. I'm gonna drop them in the G4 so y'all can see for yourselves. Knowing is half the battle. Nani? What did I just see? A new Apex gun. On the 26th. Oh, the EPG? Yeah, alright. So I wasn't tripping. It's something that they're bringing. I guess it's something that they're bringing back. And they use it. They're using it in the event at Apex. The relic thing that they got going on in pubs. But I haven't... Like, I've played it, but apparently it's like one of them super rare, like hard to find, like items that they'll drop. So I don't know. It might be like 4 or 5 of them in like the whole map. I don't know how to expect that one. I hate everything and I want hugs, spine crushing hugs. No heathenness, just cuddles. Also, I put a link in Pokemon so you can get gifts. Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, it really wasn't like a whole lot to cover for real, without it really just kind of being like reflective of like everything that came out this year, or, you know what I'm saying, hopeful for like the things that's coming out next year. Yeah, best video game remakes and remasters. Yeah, everybody's kind of like topping off their list with like best ofs and everything like that. So it's news wise, it feels like it's kind of like a slow little time frame probably until things start dropping, and we'll probably see like a pickup again in like the middle of January. I'm not saying that it's like there's like nothing going on, but I'm saying it's like it's at a point of like you gotta do some digging. Like, unless something is actually going on right now, I don't think there's gonna be anything like new popping off outside of like the best of stuff, which isn't bad though. Yeah, I don't already demonstrate that. I barely even remember what games came out this year. So who the fuck am I to talk? I'm just saying. And I'm definitely still congested, so I'm gonna be hideous. I'm gonna sound muy hideous today. Okay? Muy hideous. Alright, it's 6:30. Y'all know what time it is, okay? It's time to spread some Elden cheeks. The long way. Okay? I'm prepared. Are you? Melania, Blade of Miquella, must be vanquished. Okay. The BBC Blade versus the BBC Dragon. It's going to be epic. Now, I only got 3 hours, so who knows if I'll like get her off bat. I'm still hesitant to like go through and beat like the final boss, or attempt to beat the final bosses and everything like that before, you know what I'm saying, I beat her. But their time is coming. Their days are numbered. Their days are numbered. It's a matter of time. 2 days in a year, their days are numbered. All right. I'm not saying it is guaranteed that I'll get them by the end of the year, but I'd like to. I'd like to. You know what I'm saying? A stream every day until the end of the year, and then, you know what I'm saying, maybe even a New Year's stream. Who knows? Who knows? I'm feeling some type of way. Do better. I am. Every day. Every day I do better. Except for when it comes to Elden Ring, because it's taken me like 2 months to beat Melania. But we're not going to talk about that, okay? It was my fault for taking my time with Elden Ring anyways. I should have just jumped in it. Like if I had, you know what I'm saying? If I had played it as much then, I think it probably would be fair to say I probably would have. At the very least, been like towards the end of like the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC stuff. But I think I was just also at like a point because I did start to think about RE4 OG or OG RE4, however you want to say it. And it was another playthrough that I really just kind of wanted to get back to, finish up, and get to things. And then I ended up getting to the one of the worst parts of that. So, you know, it's just great all around, you know. What are words? I don't know. You know, for English to be my first language, it seems to be pretty fucking difficult to read and speak. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. I know the education system failed us, but I don't know what the hell that's about. Oh, I forgot I put that in there. How was everyone's day? It's Sunday. How'd the whole weekend go? What y'all planning on doing for the end of the year? What's in my phone, man? I gotta take it off the charger. When I think about it, I'm pretty sure I gotta charge my Switch. Behind me. Goofball. There's a snake and it bit me. Where is it? 79%. I'm good, actually. I'm cool. Yeah, I'm Gucci. But yeah, so I was gonna get into Elden Ring. Y'all already know I want to play some Apex. Y'all already know, but things are going on, so I didn't start the stream earlier. What that means is tomorrow I'm definitely gonna be playing. I will start the stream off with Apex, and then, you know, same deal, like 6:30, 7-ish. Then I'll end up switching to Elden Ring, and it'll go from there. If I start at 4, then yeah, like 6:30. But I want to make sure I'm committing as much time as I can to getting through Elden Ring. I'm tired. My hands are super cold. I hate things even worse. Because your hands are cold? Yeah, there's definitely a demon in that cup. Y'all didn't hear that. We're gonna edit that out. All right. This is the part of the stream where we end up starting up Elden Ring. Don't be surprised, okay? And if anyone says anything about me being a sweat, they're lying. Okay, it's propaganda. I'm not good at these games. I just play them. Don't gas me up. I mean, gas me up, but don't gas me up. You heard what? Whatever did I say? Docs. There we go. Yeah, I had to reload that. Alright, there we go. Now we ready. Hey, listen. You don't know what you don't know. Something slight. Congested. Super congested. A whole headache. Alright, because I was on it earlier. Let me see. Let me do my little refresh thing. Oh. Y'all didn't see that. I didn't do that. I did not do that to myself. Y'all can tell what was on my mind just now. Y'all can tell. Doing squats and it's killing you. Why are you doing them? In particular, why are you doing them right now? If it's like a, you know. Y'all been up on no bullshit. That's what I'm saying. Y'all been up on no bullshit. No bullshit. Okay? No? No bullshit. Alright, give me 1 second, cause I gotta see if I can like blow my nose or something like that. I'm suffering right now. When I get back, then we'll start, and then we could go from there. I appreciate y'all. Yes, I had to adjust it. I had to find the right angle. Okay. For a second, I forgot I had a hat on. Because doing squats is so I may as well do mine, but also I'm out of shape, so I'm out of breath after 30. Especially since I'm doing all 3 types of squats, so 60 total, 3 sets of 20. Okay. So what, you hitting like what's that, like weighted, supported, and then like normal squats basically? That's the first thing that came to mind for me. I'm not gonna lie. Wild, normal, and narrow. All right, yeah, you definitely gonna have to like send a picture of like those 3 diagrams. I'm assuming it's probably more so like the stance positioning, like your feet and everything like that. Super congested. Only reason I'm still on the title screen is because I have a tendency to be at the Grace, and I'll be rapping with y'all before, after, and like in the middle of doing anything, and that's led to my time being as high as it is. That's a whole nother thing. The time I done spent on this game, though relatively accurate, like I'll say I probably got like 200, but like that last 60 is definitely like the equivalent of just like sitting there. Am I blaming Chad? Nah. I'm saying I be yapping. Like from either like stopping to talk or like getting up and, you know, life things going on off stream and everything like that. Yeah, it's just all added up. Why would I blame y'all? Because I would. If y'all set me up for failure, hell yeah, I would. But no, nah. If you hear me making the little ones noodles, go ahead, do your thing, Kinky. Sent the pics in the DMs, okay. Getting my zen right now, you know what I'm saying? Finding my center. And then we're gonna go out and we're gonna do this shit. There we go. And since we in the thick of it, there we go. Gonna do that. Alright, let's do this. Hopefully I don't spawn in dead. Since y'all like to keep pointing that out. Even though in the back of my mind I do be thinking that it was like, I really hope I don't spawn in, die, and then lose everything. Did anyone appraise me? No? Damn it. Shout out to the appraisal! Just ignore it. There it is. Yeah, I don't know if I like. Not disparage. I'll give him one. I'll give him one. As the BBC Rod Dragon, I'll support. Seek projectiles, nah. Lover ahead, offer seed. Hey. I feel you, guy. I feel that. No, how the hell? Is that how I die? I hope I ain't dead like that in somebody else's game. I'm sweaty now, I hate it. It'd be like that. Alright. Let me try this. Let me do this. Hello, lady. I missed you. It's been a long time. Shouldn't have left you. Without a dope beat to step to. Whoa. Shit. I didn't even know that she was there already. Alright, we're back in this. I missed that one. Wasted a little bit, We're gonna double up on that. Come on with it. Use that one first, boom. We're back in there. She gonna pump fake me. I know you're thinking about it. It's been a second. You only did it like once. Motivate. Let me motivate you. Shit. God damn. Lover ahead, offer seed is crazy. You know, when a demon speak to you, you say anything. That's basically how the messages appear in my brain, you know. I should have gave you a U-shaped toy for when I was gone. A U-shaped toy? Wait a minute now. I was appraised? Was it this one? I be really looking for this one, knowing damn well. Now, when you say a me-shaped toy, what do you mean by that? Like a cardboard cutout? Or like one of them torso thingies? Because I'm not putting that on my receipts. Funny how now I gotta like a daily note. Y'all want to know what it's saying? 7 p.m. quick stream. Funny. And I think that's been like a recurring one since maybe before the pandemic. Oh no. That's after. That's because of my last job. That's when I had that one. That's when I made that one. I work specific hours, so it still work. But that was like I'm saying, if I end up wrapped up all day, at least get a couple hours in it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I didn't realize I was facing the wrong way. How did you die over here? How are people dying over here? Are y'all getting invaded or something? Probably. That's probably exactly what it is. Calling people up, getting invaded. Another big reason why I played it solo. Because what you're not going to do is spread my cheeks all up and down the lands the moment I get on. Running up my resources, my gold fingers, no. Excuse me. I'm curious if anybody is here. I doubt it though. My thing for my summon is too like specific. Yeah, mine is set up specifically so like homies can. It's good to have a note to stream regardless of pressing the button. Sometimes. I did. Hey, mama. I missed you. I fucked that up. I rolled away and I knew damn well. Fucking up. Let me use that first. I survived! She on my ass? I don't think she liked that I survived. I don't think she liked that. I don't think she appreciated that one bit. Oh shit. That was a good recovery though. That was a good recovery though. The first 2 runs was actually solid. Alright, I had my fuck up. I recovered that. I got it back in blood. I got it back in blood. I just gotta get her to her second stage. I just gotta get her to her second stage. Come on, come on. My room's over there. They're over there. Look at you, almost had me running the wrong way. I'm so used to you chasing me to the right. Sexy. Let's get it. Come on. Oh, you petty. She do it mid animation too. There's no interrupting that. There is no well, no. There's no interrupting it unless I'm giving her like a status effect or something like that. Crazy, crazy. As soon as that damage build up hit that mark, wooga, I'm up in it. But by then I'm already up close. It's alright, it's alright. I'm a tester, I'm a tester, I'm a tester. Well, maintain pressure and I'm not even gonna be doing a whole lot. Why? I got the first lick. What's good, baby? Come on, baby. She was stuck on me. She was stuck on me. I did start to do too much. See, that is what I mean by doing too much. You know what I'm saying? I started to feed. Because I know she's going to take that opportunity where I'm feeding and I'm getting greedy to pounce up on my ass. I know how this go. I know how this go. Let's see. What it do, baby? Back up off my roof. I was all type of, oh god damn. She perfectly interrupted my shit. Damn. Alright. Shape up. That was poor decision making. We got this. My message was appraised. I was too dumb. I was too dumb and too greedy for it. That was me. That was all me. I didn't do anything smart that time. That was straight brain off. Let me get you. Booga. Wooga. I'm gonna get my hits off. Anything? Damn, she got too much health back. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that. I seen that. I seen that. I don't know what that was. We still in this. We still in this. You said or not. Is it still fucking up? She gonna do it again. I'm just waiting. She want to. She dying for it. She fiending for it. She ain't done it yet. God damn. I ain't even want to say it. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Every so often, I don't know. Every so often there's like a blip from Xfinity, I guess. So maybe that's what that was. I don't know. The last time I actually defragged my PC was the last stream. I don't think it's something that I have to do every day. And there really don't be much going on in between. And normally, anytime I do actually start it up, so I'm like every day, kind of, I do the defragging thing to clear up the CPU space. So I don't know. You okay now, I think? I mean, yeah, all of my stats and everything in OBS are looking better. Nothing's red and everything like that. So yeah, I think it was just like a little hiccup thing, which is great. Like I actually was like, I was getting her that time, but it was fucking up, so I wasn't as focused. And welcome back, Hinky. You just missed the catastrophe that was technical difficulties. I can breathe through one nostril. I Probably could have kept that to myself. Oh, joy, yeah. Nothing too crazy. Just, you know, it cut out it right in the middle of the fight, so, you know. And to be fair, I did say that I was congested. And discovering which nostril is working, I think we all go through that. Alright? Y'all got allergies, so I'm sure y'all understand. Y'all spend a fair amount of time not being able to breathe, even when you want to, and nothing is wrong. Do I know how to flush my DNS cache and renew my IP? I don't know what that means. Don't bring up allergies. I don't have allergies. Shout out to Sam. Hey, put her there. There you go. Team no allergies. Respectfully, of course. And it is, I mixed it into my tea, but it's vodka, basically, like a smidgen. Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat with no allergies. Shout out to the people that do got allergies. I'm just, you know, I'm sorry. That's not even a fuck you moment. I was about to say we could have a poll for everybody that have and don't have allergies. Dang. Put away the pitchforks. Nah, you started with the shout out to everyone without allergies, but I also said shout out to everybody with allergies. It was right after. I don't have allergies. I rarely get sick with colds. Nah, yeah, same. It's been rare where I actually felt like I could qualify as like a cold or a sickness. It really just be like stuffiness. Like I sleep under AC. That off rip make you stuffy. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time that usually be the case, as opposed to me actually being like sick or anything like that. Yes, I'm trying to fix my fucking hat because I want to have it on. Because that's what I chose to wear today. But I also don't want it to be in the way of the headphones. Cranium. Can we agree, Cranium? There we go. I had to roll it more. Oh, I still gotta roll it more. Damn. I gotta compete with hat and hair. That fuck you did not need to be as strong as it was. What you, like, why? Why would you say fuck me for? What'd you say fuck me for? What'd I do? Because I'm chronically in pain mentally ill. So it canceled the rest? I wish it canceled out the rest. Because fuck you. But why though? I've done nothing wrong. I'm trying to put on for my what's the word? Hyperallergenic people. Does that mean what I think it means? Does that mean people with allergies, or does that mean that you're allergic to people? I don't. That's not being rude. I'm saying shout out to everybody. How is that rude? I'm just saying, as somebody who can only breathe through one nostril right now, I think people with allergies would sympathize. That's not me making fun of nobody. Big bad. Well, I mean, I have been working out. Hyperallergenic means prone to people. Okay. So should I say hyperallergenic prone people or hyperallergenic people? Because, you know what I'm saying, people be saying their dog is hyperallergenic, or their cat is hypoallergenic. You know what I'm saying? So like, is it the thing that you use to describe? Or is it the thing that you use to you know what I'm saying, the cause? Is it the cause, or is it... Come back to Kinky on this man's ass. I did nothing. Latio Secure. Don't you have the other one too? I feel like I mixed up my wording, but you get what I mean. Like when people say hypoallergenic, does it mean the thing that they are allergic to, or wait, how am I trying to say it? That's the problem. That's part of the problem. I'm still trying to figure out how the fuck I'm supposed to say it. Hypoallergenic people. A hypoallergenic dog makes people with allergies agitated. So, if I'm calling people hypoallergenic people, is that using it to describe them as having allergies, or am I literally just calling them, describing them as someone who is making people break out or something like that? Like, am I talking about them having allergies, or am I saying people are allergic to them? That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I was my mind couldn't wrap it around, because I feel like that's what I was saying when I was saying that. Hypo is no, hyper is yeah. Word. Sphinx cats are hypoallergenic, and they're better for people with cat hair allergies. Those are the bald ones, right? Define other one? The fuck do you mean, define other one? There's two of them, Latios and Latias. I'm sorry, I forgot this is your first Pokemon. Latios is paired with Latias. They were the... Alright, so you know how... I guess not, but in this one, you know, you have like your main legendary, and then like the best way I could describe it, in Scarlet and Violet's case, you have the legendary, like they actually started us with a legendary. Because normally the cover Pokemon is like, that's in game and all of that stuff. That's the difference between like this one and everything that's came before. I don't think I ever like talked to you about that. But back in the day, and this would be Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. That's where they introduced Rayquaza. Latios and Latias were like the pair Pokemon. Like there was always the rival ones, but there's the legendary. There's like a secondary legendary pair. You know what I'm saying? And then that you come across them around the same time at like in-game type stuff. And then after that, that's when you start to find all of the different legendaries from different regions and different eras and stuff. So you're kind of like in the mix of all of it because, you know, they give them, I guess they give them to you in a specific order with your blueberry thing. But that's basically how it go. First Pokemon game. I forget sometimes. Every Pokemon game is somebody's first. So I'm not trying to like say nothing. I went off of like an age thing and assuming that you would have known, and that overrode the fact that I know that this is your first one, and I keep forgetting that. Hypo and Hyper, yeah. Alright, so I definitely had them backwards. Hypersomnia means I can sleep for 14 hours straight when it kicks in. Another word for insomnia, can't sleep. Hyposomnia. See, now I feel like I gotta look at and see if these are actual words. You know what I'm saying? Now I feel like I gotta look these up. Wouldn't have thought that there was other versions of insomnia. There was an antonym for insomnia. Other than narcolepsy. I haven't played a Pokemon game since Snap and Stadium. Oh, wow. Damn. Alright, that's way far back. Is that because you never had another, like, Nintendo or something like that? Like a Game Boy and all that stuff? Because being honest, we're going to edit this out. Okay, we're going to edit this out. If you have a phone, you have a Game Boy. Pontificate upon that, my brother. That's all you gotta do. Make of that information what you will, because the Nintendo ninjas, not I tell you, not I. On the N64 and the DS, that was it. There ain't nothing wrong with the DS. I actually had I never had the OG DS. But I had the original DS Lite, and then when they did like their second iteration, because they did that with the Game Boy Advance SP. When I think about it, like there was the better settings and all of that stuff. I had the original DS Lite and the revamp one that's actually right over here in this case, in this little shelf case thing. Cabinet case thing. I also had the 3DS XL, so I skipped the 3DS and got the 3DS XL. I had the DS Lite and the DS XL. Yeah, see, top tier. Well, hold up, no, because technically, the DS XL was a regular DS. The original Nintendo DS was a behemoth. If I remember correctly, we were upset because it was too big for us to have in our pockets, so we couldn't just easily sneak that motherfucker out in class. Tell me if I'm wrong. That sumbitch was big. Like stupid fat. 3DS XL. Oh yeah. Alright, you had some solid contenders. Did anybody ever have the 2DS? Or did you actually know someone who had a 2DS? You're right, the OG DS was a... If it wasn't, we wouldn't have gotten the DS Lite, which by default came with better specs. And then they wouldn't have just reiterated on that with better specs. You know what I'm saying? It was good. I didn't have the DSi though. That's the one that I skipped over in all of this. There's the DSi, and then the DSi even had an XL before the 3DS. I didn't have that one. But all of those, every iteration has had a Pokemon. When it comes to Nintendo consoles, there's always a Pokemon. This is just the first time, like the Switch is kind of like the first time it's all together. N64, Stadium 2, Snap, and I feel like there was another one. I really do feel, Puzzle. There's a couple of them. Pokemon actually had like a lot of them, and in the Nintendo 64 era. And then for the GameCube, you know what I'm saying, they had Coliseum, and then what was it called? XD? Yeah, Pokemon XD. Boom. That was like the main junks, and those also went with the corresponding Game Boy Advance games. So they were always like trying to connect them in between. Like I still got the N64 controller pack thing to put it in my games, and at least Gold still works. I haven't checked all of them, just cause I got a 3DS and they don't have the Game Boy port. But I told you, I still got my Game Boy Advance. I still got my my DS Lite, and wait, do I still have my Game Boy Advance? I don't want to be lying. I know I still have my Color. But did I ever find my Advance? I don't think so. All right, yeah, no, I don't think I have that anymore. I think that might have bricked a long time ago, and then that might have been my brother's, because mine was black, and then he had the better version of the SP. So mine didn't even have like a backlight. No, that's a lie. It did, but it wasn't like bright. It was just on and off. His version, he had like different settings of light. Uh-oh, I see that. No, not the frames. Whatever little hiccup is going on with my system, I'd appreciate it if it cut it out. That's part of the reason why I was fine, just kind of like chilling and rapping. And I seen you say Groudon Secure. That's another one that's from the same generation as Latios and Latias. So yeah, I think the way that it works is you're gonna have like one half of the set, and then I'm gonna have the other half. And if it's not gonna be the other half, because you have Groudon, you have Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, which they have their ancient versions in that game. So I think for me, I'm gonna have based off of the list that I'd have Pokemon from like the later generations, Virizion and something like that. I think they might be from Black and White. They're kind of like deer looking-ish. Oh, and in one of them's case, he looked like a big ass bull. And then there's since you just mentioned Solgaleo, there's the lunar something. It's fucking Moonbat, okay? It's fucking Moonbat. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna play that game. Because I had a Game Boy Color, another had a GBA, so I played on them. I own GBA, SP, DS Lite. My brother had a 3DS. I still have my 3DS XL. Just no charger? Yeah, that's a thing. The chargers themselves also do not. Because I called him Suicune? That's just how I say Suicune. I know it's Suicune. They don't call it Suisune. My older cousin had yellow on his GB. I didn't really play that. True. It's solid. I'm telling you. All right. If you hadn't, yeah, it's dated. So like, there's different versions that you could try. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going red. I was about to say red, blue, and yellow, because originally it was red and green, but that was just in Japan. We got blue. Instead of trying those, you got fire red, leaf green. Those Game Boy Advance games with the iteration, like you can run shit that you definitely could not do in those first iterations of the game. You know what I'm saying? They found ways to do it. Like, instead of gold and silver, there's heart gold and soul silver. But good luck finding those. Unless, of course, you do what you gotta do. And I feel like that's the best way I can say that.